Have you ever wondered how to live stream and let alone do it with the best gear on the smallest package that can kind of fit anywhere? These are some requirements and requests that are kind of difficult to get in the live stream community without spending tens of thousands of dollars. But do you also want something that's going to do a good job and not be the budget proposition? Today I want to share with you a solution I've been using and I love it quite a bit. This is YoloBox Pro, and I'm Robert Ham with Robert Ham Photography. I'm a working wedding photographer, videographer in Virginia Beach. This is in Virginia, United States, so for those of you watching abroad, hello, and for those of you around town close, hey, nice to see you again. Today, this box is what allows me to be live streaming mobile on location and providing beautiful funerals or wedding ceremonies, all kinds of stuff. I've been using YoloBox for, ever since firmware version 1.2, and that's been quite a while. YoloBox is now up to firmware version 5. And that's going to tell you something a little bit about the company, YoloLive, the one that makes YoloBox. Of all the products that they make, YoloLive, the company themselves, shout out to Frank and Jenny and Skylar. These guys out there really do a great job of listening to the community, building a strong community, talking directly to the community through the Facebook groups and through the different messaging applications, and updating YoloBox often. So I just have to give a big thank you to them. If you're not used to that kind of connection with the company that makes the products that you use, then you don't know what it's like to be an ambassador specifically for like Panasonic or Fujifilm or Sony. See, I'm not one of those, right? So I know what it's like to be on the end of needing software updates and trying to report bugs and problems and not having them fixed. I would say that the biggest feature, the best thing that you're getting when you buy a YoloBox isn't live streaming. It's the support from the people that make it. Oh, and did I tell you that you can talk to Frank directly? He's a co-founder of the company. When's the last time you talked to the president of Sony? You didn't. Let me give you a little explanation before we jump into my top features. And when I'm on location, I need to be able to shoot, move, and communicate quickly. I need to be able to get both my photography and my videography crew working. And I need to be able to coordinate cameras from multiple angles into one device. And sometimes I need to be able to work on different locations on the globe, specifically different areas of one city or even different spots in the same hotel. YoloBox is a platform that allows that to happen. And you might be saying, sure, that sounds great. If you know about streaming, other platforms can let that happen too. But when was the last time you put your laptop, right, on top of your camera? Okay, I'm saying this to be silly. If you're going to use the excellent software that's in OBS as a studio streaming platform and you want to stream in 4K, that makes quite a bit of sense. But if you're trying to be mobile, if you're trying to have high quality while you're on the go, there's no better platform. I'm going to directly address right now the competitors. An ATEM Mini Pro. Great, sure, plug that on top of your camera. Where's your monitor? I have extensive use with the ATEM Mini Pro, and prior to YoloBox, I thought the ATEM Mini was great. But even the ATEM Mini required a computer to stream with, so it didn't unburden me when I was doing weddings or funerals on the beach. An ATEM is great when you're in the studio. It's not so good when you're trying to put it on top of your camera for a mobile rig that'll work for you. Next thing is quality. Notice I'm not talking features yet, I'm just talking use case. If this wasn't a good quality, all of the features that it has wouldn't make any sense. And I've photographed over 500 weddings, but over 200 events, 150 funerals, 200 funerals, maybe even more. Gosh, I stopped counting. I've done so many of these. It's just a beautiful stream. 1080p up to 60 frames a second with overlays, titles, and other media that I might want to have. It makes it very simple to do that. And if I was just trying to do that with a device that was mobile, but also didn't have a high quality, then I wouldn't be providing the best service to my guests, my clients, and I don't think I'd be continuing to get work. No, I wouldn't settle for that anyways. So I use it for those two reasons more than anything else. Number one, the excellent support from the team that's constantly improving. And number two, the fact that it is actually a device that can fit on top of your camera. And this is the largest one, by the way, the YoloBox Pro. There is a mini, it's even smaller, that can go live on location with high quality stream wherever you are, that you have an internet connection, a cellular connection, a Wi-Fi connection, even a bonded network connection. It's kind of miraculous. Let's look at the features up here. This is what we see when we go in. I'm gonna actually go ahead and create a live stream for you today. We'll do it right now. I'm just gonna press plus and I'll go to create a live stream. I'm not gonna give this any particular name because in this instance, it doesn't necessarily matter to me because I'm just sharing with you. But I'm clicking that up and I could do a date and a time if I wanted to schedule this. And now it's scheduled. Notice that on the screen, we've actually got two different programs. One that I did just a day or so ago. I could delete that, but it's a past program, and the new one that's scheduled for today. I'm gonna go ahead and click into this. Now, when we move into this, there are a couple of things that we might wanna do first. I'm gonna turn on this camera. I just realized that it's not on. And it's searching for an HDMI 1 signal. When you come into this, you have several different things down at the bottom. That's your regular menu, and you can see them up here. Network bonding is this one, okay? And as for network bonding, it gives you the ability to bond this with a server as well as have multiple internet connections so that you can stream with less chance of interruption. That's a great feature right there, and I absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about streaming from just one cellular phone, wouldn't it be nice to stream from two different sources? Can't do that usually. Moving over here, we have titles. Now I've got titles already generated and built for the things I do usually, but I'm gonna go ahead and leave that up and we'll talk about it later. Here we have our streaming destinations. I'm gonna share with you this right now. I'm gonna go ahead and choose my Robert Ham Photography unlisted YouTube channel, and I'm just gonna click done. Now, if you notice what's happened in this corner right here, we've got this little icon that shows YouTube. When we go live, it'll show that we're ready. Now, what that has actually done, for those of you on the back side, that's actually sent a request to my YouTube server, specifically on YouTube Studio, just on the regular youtube.com on your Creator Studio, that has actually put this in my scheduled events now, and it's pending. And it's done so smartly with APIs that directly integrate with YouTube, which means that my stream will start and stop when I press start and stop here. And if that's all I wanted to do was go live, I could just end it right now and I could share this stream with whoever I wanted, and I wouldn't have to do any additional updating. But because YoloLive, the company, built in this great feature and these partner APIs that work with YouTube, I can actually go into my Creator Studio and update things like detailed, monetization, charity support. I can add thumbnails, additional links, metadata, keywords, and I can do that all from my YouTube Studio. This is a type of direct integration that you don't see with something like just streaming from your cell phone or even other connected cameras. The camera that I'm filming this on right here is a Panasonic S5, and I've got a Panasonic HCX 1500 and other connected cameras that can stream live to YouTube or Facebook, wherever you want directly. But it's a single camera input. With YoloLive and YoloBox, you can have whatever camera that you want, stream as many cameras to that source as you would like, or as you have the ability to, and, well, you can do it with titles, generations, SD card videos, overlays, commercials, monetization, and different support as we're seeing here. It's really cool. So now that we've got that completed, it's showing that we're streaming there. We could choose another source as well. We've got guests, the ability to invite guests. Now, these guests are great because when the guests are invited, they're invited through a link that will open up on any device that they have and request access to the microphone and their camera. They can choose if they want to grant that access. Obviously, you'd want them to. But by doing so, it doesn't matter if it's a tablet, it doesn't matter if it's a computer, it doesn't matter where they are. You can have a remote guest somewhere else that joins as a separate video feed and source. Remember, we were talking about inviting people from different places? You have a live stream where you've got a bride and groom. The bride's getting ready to walk down the aisle, but I got a camera operator with the bride up in her room, and she's coming down, and we've got the groom on the beach. That's further than line of sight would usually allow, and that's further than wireless HDMI communication would allow, even with Axis or Hollyland devices. But actually, YoloLive makes it easy with this invite system right there. As we continue forwards, we've got a complete audio input panel. This is something that I think is extremely important. When we have this panel right here, we can choose our audio sources, right? And our audio sources themselves can be shown up here on this monitor. See? That monitor allows us to do quite a bit, exactly what you would think, but it also gives us the ability to change our audio inputs, monitor what we're getting, and add delay to audio that might be coming in. It's really pretty awesome. As we continue across, we have things like Scoreboard. And the scoreboard itself will allow you to create custom graphic scoreboards and overlays for your sporting events that you're doing with multiple teams. Here, we also have comments. Now, we're over here on YouTube. We're not currently live, but should we be live on YouTube, comments would begin popping up right there. And while we're doing that, let's talk about what we would need to go live, and that's going to be encoding settings. Now, for my encoding settings, I would choose all kinds of different options, but over here, you've got everything you can think of, from your video switching sources modes to the type of transitions that you'll do. But for me, I'm really looking for the encoding settings. We've got a very robust panel here to choose your encoding settings that makes it simple and easy to get streaming up right and stay streaming. YoloLive also includes a network test on this device so that you can test your network before you stream, so that you will know if you're actually having a network that can support the stream that you want to do. You would then use that information to set your limits over here. Constant bit rate, constant quality, and variable bit rate. Constant bit rate, highest quality. Variable bit rate, highest fidelity, highest frame rates. And then constant quality in between is going to give you a mix of both. So you can choose, depending on your network, whether you want to prioritize a specific bit rate, whether you want to prioritize a frame rate, or whether you want to let the network choose. Generally, constant quality or constant bit rate is the best. In data-starved networks, variable bit rate is the best, and then constant quality is kind of in between. Choose which you prefer. Today, I'm going to do 3,000 kilobits a second at 30 frames per second, and in this case, I'm just going to click Go Live. It's asking me, are you sure you want to go live? And I'm going to say yes. Now we can actually see our device is changing. It's syncing right here. We're looking at our frame rate up here, our drop frame rate, our live capability. And we're over here with our data and our network up and down. You look in the bottom of the screen, it shows us that YouTube is good to go. So although you're not seeing that live stream right now because it would just be my shoulder, this stream is streaming live for the rest of the demonstration. If you ever want to check and see what we're doing with how much battery's left and everything else, you can just look up here. 30 frames a second at 32 seconds so far, and 3096 kilobits per second. It's pretty good. If we had multiple sources, which we can add right now, I'll add a SD card video, which is a local video, and I'll just add I'll add this wedding video. Now, why not? We'll notice that now we have another video that's popped up. In this case, this is what your guests would see, whatever in the program field. And if you want to look at it a bit larger, you can always zoom in. Remember, this is encoding and streaming right now with no laptop on top of this camera. I hope that you're beginning to see just how strong of a value proposition is, just how strong of a contender this is in the actual space of on-location live video streaming. It's really something else. From there, we can still change through all of our different sources. But if we wanted to do an auto source, we could simply check our video sources and turn auto switching on. Auto switching is currently set for 10 seconds. You can kind of see which one is doing which. And as they're switching, you'll notice that the timer will count down, and it will begin whatever transition that you have set for the transitions once the timer counts down. Transitions are set over here under your settings. And currently it's cut, but I'll just do a fade. Now, let's go back and talk about audio for a moment. Audio is all right here, and we could choose to increase or decrease the audio of either our local video. Notice we're going into the orange. We're peaking, or we could turn it off completely. Notice that because this audio source is coming in separate and we have multiple sources, we can now choose a delay. So if we needed to delay the audio from two cameras, specifically cameras that were coming in from different sources, not just wireless HDMI, but even a different streaming source, this is the one that we would use. You might ask yourself, how do you choose a different camera from a different streaming source? How would that work? Well, check this out. we've actually got streaming source as a choice for our local input. I don't know if you saw, but it says live stream. So if you have a YouTube channel or any other streaming channel or your own private server, you can set up a live stream and enter that information right here, and then YoloBox will use that video source and that audio source as an input. It's kind of genius, really. I also want to talk about these really interesting record and replay functions. I want to draw your attention up here. Two very important buttons, record and replay. Record and replay are going to allow you to do exactly that. If you'd like to make internal recordings of your production output, the monitor output, all you have to do is push the record button. And when you do, it's going to tell you how much space you have left to record, and it'll begin recording. There are some additional options that you have for how you're going to record when you're over here in your settings. You can set different limits to where it creates new files every 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, hour, or it just creates a file until it reaches 4 gigabytes. I usually keep mine set to every 10 minutes. I do that because my recordings are proxy recordings, and it's easier for me to jump through those settings rather than going back and looking for a specific thing in a long 2-hour live stream. I'd rather have 12 or 13 smaller clips. You can choose however you'd like because the settings make it simple. When we're going to go to replay, it will replay the last 10 seconds or whatever your settings are as it has recorded. And it will also add that as a video source. It's telling us that we have a 10-second video source as a replay, and now the replay is gone. So it allows us to jump in as a source, save it as a source, or just have that one-time show. So if you're thinking that you want to create highlights, you would then save that source by clicking on it, and it would make it active, and it would save it so that you continue to click. If you wanted to just show that instant replay for that particular part right there, no problem. Play happened, you push the instant replay. That's it. As we continue over here, we've got our sources. Now, we didn't talk about this, but we could also go live at the same time. Now, going live at the same time requires setup in multi-destination live streaming. And that setup is our direct to streaming mode, is our direct or YoloLiv's multi-streaming service. So had I started this stream prior to selecting direct source, which is one source, I could have selected multiple sources. And then that would allow me to stream on all the destinations that I have at one time. So things like Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, wherever your streaming destination, RTMPS, would be highlighted down in that box field. As we're continuing right now, notice that the stream is still counting up. We're at 6 minutes on the stream, and we're at no drop frames, and we're at 30% or 30 frames per second with no drop frames. We can also see that we're streaming at 2962 kilobits per second, so we're staying right at that 3000 kilobits per second mark that we wanted. And we're also up here at 384 kilobits per second up and 117 kilobits per second down. And this entire time that we've been making this video so far, which has been about 15 minutes, we've only lost 10% maybe in battery life, maybe less. I'd have to go back and check. Let's come over here to overlays. We've got these things playing, but let's say we wanted to create an overlay or put one on top. Notice I've got an overlay up here now. You can see it. That's no problem. We can also select other overlays that we may have to include animated motion. This is a GIF playing in an overlay that we could use with additional titles. Notice the background is still the GIF and the continuous loop playing with the title over top of it. Now, in this instance, you'll see both of those overlays disappeared. Why was that? Well, it's because as we hit our edit button, we'll see that we can actually choose a duration for our overlay. In this instance, I've got it set to 12 seconds. And it does exactly what I wanted it to do, which was bring up a background and a title over top of it and allow those two titles with their own set destinations to play while I continue my content, conversation, or narration. And then when they're all said and done, it gets right back to the video. So I have synchronized them. That kind of makes managing a one-person podcast or video cast very simple. Creating these things is as easy as you would expect. If you want to add something, if you want to update something, you simply change the text, change the words. I mean, it is as easy as just drag and drop, touch. What you see is what you get. Repositioning this is simple too. As you can see, it's moving around. Border and background colors you can change to whatever that you would like. I hope that you saw the change in color now. It's just as easy as that. When you're done, click done. If you don't want to click done and you don't want to save your settings that you just did, just click back and it will disregard whatever changes that you've made. For me, the biggest features of the YoloBox are streaming in the way that you have seen. I love this view because it gives me all of my information up front and lets me see and simply transition from whatever source I would like. When I set up for a wedding, many times I'll have my cameras where they need to be, two steady cameras or static cameras and one moving steady cam on a gimbal. Generally, I'll be in back and I'll have this on my director's monitor, not on this camera setup. And my production assistant will be with me. We'll be talking to our camera operators, and the camera operators are moving around, generally one on a camera and the other two panning and tilting. Sometimes we'll just have one wide-angle camera set up at the side of the wedding. Think of a wedding on a beach, like what I've been showing up there. Where would those three cameras be? Well, one camera is going to want to be on the bride's face, and one camera is going to want to be on the groom's face, but that's only after they get down the altar. Okay. So one camera is going to need to follow the bride as she's walking down the aisle. Okay. So how do we set that up? Well, I usually put my cameras on the two corners by the bridesmaids and then by the groom's side family, focusing that way so they each capture different things. That's where they start. Each camera operator is then panning, and then I have one camera operator that's got the camera on the gimbal following the bride. My production assistant and I are sitting here talking to them, and while I'm on the YoloBox, and telling them what moves that they need to make. All the while, I'm switching all the different angles. Let's say you didn't have that opportunity. What might you be able to do? Well, you could actually set your cameras up statically and then choose to switch them yourself or set them to auto switching like I like to do. I use a lot of auto switching for funerals and interview type of things. If I'm doing a live interview, I will use auto switching and I'll maintain questions for my guest, or I will maintain the interviewer and the interviewee so that they're where they need to be, and I'll have the auto switching happening. Meanwhile, I'm choosing which one I want to go if I need to override that auto switching. Lots of times, I'll be able to put the graphics on the screen while the questions are being asked in order to facilitate that. I like this feature because it makes it easier for me to work efficiently for my client, my brides, my grooms, whomever I'm working with. This is just a brief overview of how I use YoloBox in my wedding and workflow, my commercial video workflow. If you guys want to learn more, you can check out my YouTube video. Please feel free, I should say, to email me or text me. I have no problem with, don't text me, email me. Email me, don't text me. Don't ever text me. Please feel free to email me, right? And I'll be happy to answer your questions you've got. I think that YoloLive has created an amazing product, which is why I use it all the time. I can't give you a better endorsement than that. And really, YoloLive doesn't even ask me to make these videos. I have a great relationship with them, but I have it because they listen, and I have it because they create products that help me make money. It's that simple. Oh, and by the way, my clients love it when I show up with something like this, because it's just the future of where video production is going, live, on-location production. When they're used to seeing production houses come out with cell phones or big old setups with computers and extra tables and things like that, it's nice for the client to know that you can walk in and set up as easy as this camera or a mirrorless camera, whatever else you want, with something as integrated as YoloLive's YoloBox on top. Guys, I'm Rob with Robert Ham Photography, commercial wedding photographer, videographer here in Virginia Beach, Virginia, serving Hampton Roads and the East Coast. If you've got any questions, I'd love to hear them down below. I want to thank you for watching and remind you I'll catch you all on the flip side. Bye for now.